This conference will now be recorded.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, I'll now open for public comment on non-agenda items. Second call for public comment on non-agenda items. Last call for public comment on non-agenda items. Seeing no public comment on non-agenda items, we'll move to adjourn the regular portion and move into work session.
So moved.
Second.
Aye.
Aye.
Moving on to work session. So you received the 390 clarification points. So those were the other purchase services. Do you have any questions on those?
Oh, did they get put in there today?
Ginger emailed them all to you.
Really?
Do you want me to print them out?
Yeah, I checked it earlier, but
Or you got a copy?
sorry about that. I didn't check this in the last 4 or 5 hours.
Which part are you guys talking about?
The other purchase services in financial, it's called 390 is the item code underneath.
Thank you.
What was the total for the auditing and accounting? Okay, I was just kind of. $12,000 sound right?
Are you looking at other purchase services too?
No. Well, so this, I got the 2650 out of the two other purchase services from admin and financial.
Okay, so
So plus 5,800. $14,500.
sounds with all of it.
So that's the total. It's not like in other purchase services elsewhere, other departments, other purchase services,
No,
just financial and admin. Okay.
any other questions on the other purchase?
I don't think so.
So we kind of just took a stab and took it down a little bit, like in some of it based on like the Science Montana is not there anymore. We don't anticipate any of those. The code books, I think we're pretty much up to date. I know we had to, Corey was missing one, so we had to get a whole new book. And then we wanted some available at opposites at some point as well. It happens. So we kind of took that out of there'll be updates to it, like with the floodplain, but we put those kind of in floodplain itself. But they could end up under other purchase services if there's overflow or it costs more, or there's more updates. I didn't know if we'd get into zoning or not. That was gonna depend on how far the growth policy went. So it was kind of a stab at how much update the code book would need. And then like the codifiers on there is also the web link when you look. So we don't control the web link to Sterling. And now that I've used it on a mobile device, I now see what, like, if you don't go to the bottom of the screen for other documents, I was trying to use it like I would on the website, but that's how Sterling Codifiers has it built in their link. I figured the links didn't work. You're nodding like now I thought you were saying like they didn't link it work at all. And it's how Sterling Codifiers has it set up on their mobile device. You have to push other documents and keep pushing other documents to go through it, which is not mobile friendly.
So, did Sterling change or is it
Mm-hmm.
Sterling did that on their own?
Yeah.
Are there other codifiers that could be?
I haven't looked at that to see if there's a better platform for mobile, because it's definitely not convenient on a mobile device.
And then are they charging the same?
Yes. And I don't know if it was for a security reason, or I don't imagine that it would be. It is a lot less user friendly than it used to be, where it was like a drop down menu and you could do it that way. Now it's next document. And so we can certainly look at a different format and ask them if they can change their format. I don't know. All right, so that's pretty much 390 in financial and administration in a nutshell. Any other questions on that? Okay.
I have a question on the other document though. That was up, that Ginger uploaded. One from Matt,
Mm-hmm.
Officer Fisher. When was his last day? He read his resignation here on December 14th. When was his last day?
I'd have to go pull the personnel file to know for sure.
It was in December?
Yes,
Mhm.
December 14th is when he read his resignation here in front of everybody.
Yeah, it looks like he worked in January.
Yes, he's got holiday pay in December for 28 hours, or 28 hours. He's got holiday hours in January.
And that was supposed
When-
to be his exit interview, wasn't it?
When was, that's why I'm asking, when was his last day?
He had just given his 2 weeks at that
Yeah.
Okay,
Still be December.
Yeah.
2 weeks is 28. Yeah, I'd have to, but if the pay period fell in January, Craig, he would have been paid his last paycheck.
And pull the time cards.
yeah, I'd be interested to know when his last day was.
And so this is the only report you could generate with that? There's no like bank
But-
statement to show it in there or something like
Pulling
that?
pulling his wages is what would have come out of that 50.
So there's no way to actually trace it to the other account in the general
No,
fund?
not the way the county sends the tax money in.
And although he read it here on December 14th, my understanding it was provided to his superior prior to that. Because it made it out on the internet prior to that. So
It was in the agenda packet before that.
when did he give us 2 weeks? When was his last day?
Okay.
12/12/23 is when it was put in, dated. And received.
It doesn't look like he has many
Effective
hours.
December 26th. I submit my resignation from my position as police officer within NSPD effective December 26, 2023.
December 26th.
Yeah. Is there a paycheck for
January.
Probably
January?
overlapped. If his last day was the 26th, the pay period.
The pay period doesn't end on the first of the year.
It would be the Monday.
Because there's 28 holiday hours in December. another 11 in January, in addition to regular time.
But Junior's saying that this January, he got paid in January, but he actually worked those hours in December. I think that's what she's saying.
When he worked, his last day was the 26th, correct?
Yeah,
So then he wouldn't have his. Come out until
Did you say the following Monday? Roger? That would have been January.
January 1.
Well, it would have been the first, so probably the second.
It's twice a month. So it would have depended on like, was that the second? Because we do every 2 weeks.
Yeah, so payday should have been January.
so is that why this is showing up as January payroll?
Yes.
But the hours, these hours were actually December hours.
Correct.
Yes.
So these remaining funds, the 24,324, those remained in the police department budget, correct?
Correct.
And they're still earmarked only for second officer wages.
Second officer and materials.
Okay,
It's for support for second officer. So those funds could have been used for wages, protective gear, things like that.
Because wasn't there a grant too?
There's no grant money.
There wasn't a grant for that,
I think John Moore was working on a grant.
but that was supposed to be for the third officer.
Yeah.
That was the cop, what they call a cops grant.
I guess I just thought there was for that. Okay.
Yeah, I think they were both done on with ARPA funds, correct? Even Fisher's, no?
No. Not all of it.
First started with the second officer funds from our voting.
Was it ARPA or was it the first bucket A of years, maybe? Bucket. That was the one over here, the bucket A, bucket B. I think it was bucket A the first round, a portion of it.
I don't remember it being purple funds. And reading the parameters of what that was about. Neither here nor there. Federal funding.
I think I have a question on the combined page 53 and 54.
Oh.
Okay. Okay, mostly can you just explain it to me like I'm an idiot, please?
So
Because this is technically the cash reserves, right? Is that right?
Well, it's everything, Nikki. It shows, the first column is appropriations. So that is what we went over last night. What's the expenditure budget?
Okay.
What each of these funds has appropriated for the year.
Okay.
The second column, budgeted cash reserve, is what would be anticipated to have at year end, still left.
Okay.
So then you add those two together and that gives your total requirements. Then where the page splits,
Mhm.
that cash available is what was in the accounts at the end of this last fiscal year. And then the non-tax revenues is income that comes in other than mills. For instance, in general fund, you're looking at dog licenses, business licenses. You'll see all that on the revenue budget form. It's broke out. And then the next column is what will come in mills that we levied for. And this combination page, I have to break it out so that the voted and the permissive mills are on their own page. But I added the permissive and voted mills into levied mills. Just didn't want you guys to have to bounce between the two pages. And then again, so you add the columns as it states up above, column 5 and 6, to get total revenues. And then total resources would actually be the two columns added together. The cash available, non-tax revenues, and property tax revenues is your total resources.
Okay, so non-tax revenues for general in the expenditure or in the revenue, it's only like $20,000, right? How many?
No.
Or does that include intergovernment?
So
Oh, that's
when you
licenses
look
and
at the
permits.
revenue budget report,
Mhm.
you're gonna see that in property tax revenues, you're gonna see the 325,984.
Mhm.
Okay, everything below that, in that, like you've got local option, cannabis, business, dog, animal zoning permits. It shows our rest area costs that come in. Video gaming. And then the courts in there.
So am I understanding this right, that column 7 is our total revenues?
So that's 5 and 6 added together.
Yes. Okay, yep, and then we have the cash that's there.
Right.
So but the appropriations is $910,415. So currently, to meet our expenditures, we're having to use the cash in
Some
reserve.
of the cash available. And we couldn't have held that cash reserve at that amount anyway, because it would have been over 50% of appropriations.
So I guess my question is, I'm sorry I wasn't here last night, is the budgeted cash reserve of 343,775
776, is that going to special projects that are just like a one-time thing? I don't understand how you can have, that big of, that turns out to be 25%. More than that. I'm just curious, is that sustainable? If you're always dipping into your cash reserve, like if those are ongoing costs, or if they are project-specific costs, like, oh, we're gonna, I don't know, it's a one-time project, whether that's paving the street or those kinds of things, or if there are typical operating costs, I guess is my question. If those are. And what you guys found yesterday, is it a typical operating cost you can't, in my mind, wouldn't be able to sustain a deficit.
So we were trying to actually allow for more budgeted cash reserves to the other departments or other subsections in here, like the library, and the planning board, leaving some in there as well. So we use more of the general fund, like cash reserve, for expenditures in those, to not touch cash reserves in those for future planning. Does that make sense? Like for the libraries, along with a capital improvement, we still wanted to allow for major repair and keep that budgeted cash reserve. Well, there's always rolls back over. And the same with like the planning board, thinking that if it's there and we have to do budgeted portion, if we get through growth policy to the next stage, but not necessarily guaranteed.
So are you transferring funds from the general fund to the library?
I think that's
No,
not,
they had, there would have been additional mills levied into their funds. So the general fund would be separate from that. They each have their own fund, yes.
correct.
Library, planning board, yes, they're all separate unless there's an inter-fund transfer. Correct. Okay. So I guess, yeah, my question just still stands if there's a operating contingency, those baseline operating funds. Are $910,000, or does that include special projects for this year? Are there any particular special projects that we're able to use some of those cash funds? You see what I'm getting at? So if we maintain having expenses of, let's just $900,000, but our revenues, are $700,000 without any special projects, then you're basically budgeting in over time a deficit.
Correct.
Does that,
And so, and is having a deficit of that amount, because we have, if I'm understanding this sheet correctly, $528,000 cash available. We're gonna use 343 of that this year to meet those appropriations. Next year, we're not gonna have $343,000 in cash reserves to make up the difference. We're gonna have, whatever, $200,000. So we're trying to set yourself up for, you know, if we truly come to this appropriations, or is it better to get a clearer picture in the budget, because it was what, this on the general fund last year, what expenditures.
$909,627.
Yeah. Current, well, that's the current budget, is the actual, the 23, 24, 600, 588? Is that our actual, or is it the 909?
But 24 general budgeted that 909.
Yeah. But our actual is 600.
595. For actual expenditures.
Oh, okay, on here I have 600, 588. For the fund.
Well, I'm looking at the multi-year actuals.
Okay, this one was printed on the 30th of August, so maybe it's a little different. 595, which is roughly $600,000. So I'm just,
Did it change from last night to tonight? The
No.
expenditure?
well, I guess I'm just getting back
That's the same
to,
word I was using last night, the numbers were right.
it seems as though like you could get closer to what you're actually spending instead of just saying, because you know how the budget's prepared, of like, oh, well, last year we budgeted this and not this. I'm just curious as to why you would budget yourself a deficit of that large. Knowing that if you actually were to meet your budget, you couldn't do it 2 years in a row. And it makes sense if there's special projects or, you know, capital improvement plan, whatever, where you can say, oh, yep, we've got the money to do it, we're gonna do it. But if you actually spend $900,000 this year, spend $900,000 next year, you're just not gonna have the funds to do it.
So we had some special projects in there, one of them being the 25,000 total for the paving project out front. One of the additions also was the economic growth development. So that's 2,500 towards an educational portion for resort tax. So I guess I could go back through and pick those ones, but that's kind of where I think those totals were coming from. We can sure look at cutting them back.
I mean, it's just a general, because that's about $30,000 out of the $300,000.
After last night's conversation, is there any concern on evaluating health insurance plan? See, the bill that we did on the tax levy requirements was 22.78. That's a heavy bill of it. They reevaluated, could be distributed differently.
So I think I have last year's, there's no like date on this, so I'm not sure, but it looks like it was 117 last year.
Or
On the same form where it's health insurance amount levied.
combined, on a combined form, or just a,
It's just like the one we had pulled up, but I think it's from last year. There's no date on it. It just says state form 53, 54, 55. And I don't know how to see a date on it. It's not filled in.
so give me a different number than other than what's on health insurance. Like on page,
I don't know. I just searched it in the Google Drive. I searched tax levy. So I think this is from last year, but I'm not 100% sure. So I don't, like general fund is 910,415.
that's this year.
That's a share.
Oh, what? Okay, never mind then, because I don't know. So how do I find last year's?
$235.
So on this report from 8:30, it says the actuals for 23-24 health insurance is 126, 189, 126,000. And this year it's budgeted to be $235,000.
Totally. So I don't know.
That seems like a jump.
That's not what we saw last.
Totally confused myself. I don't even know where to look for.
So that's an 85% increase in health insurance?
Your 8:30, is it at your document from 8:30?
It's the one I was going by and following you guys very clearly with last night.
Yeah, it just says that it's a
mine.
year.
The one I was looking at last night when I was sitting here.
So it's the year-to-date actual. Yeah, so this one says, let's see, 21 fiscal year ending in 21, we spent $75,000.
Are you on the expenditure or on the revenue?
It says expenditure, town of Ennis expenditure budget, multi-year actuals for the year 24, 25.
And what page are you
What
on?
page is that?
12 of 30.
Thank you.
And there might be something goofy because it says in 21, 22, it was only $9,800. So that doesn't seem right.
What page?
12.
And I'm just looking at the bottom, at the fund, is that not correct? Oh, okay, so, excuse me, 876 was spent on insurance last year. They had budgeted $242,000. And then this year, so your budgeting will.
Okay, now I see where you're at.
Yeah,
For
sorry, and
12
I
for
was down
20.
way at the bottom, I was looking at the fund, I apologize, because I was looking at the health insurance fund. That's where I'm kind of confused.
Yeah, the 982, that looks like
Okay. 'cause that
road
was-
maintenance.
Okay, but
What?
hold on, let's see, because like, oh yeah, that is, because it breaks it out, administration, payroll services, law enforcement,
Do you see what I'm saying there?
what's that?
Like the total isn't 982 and 21. $9,824.
So what is that bottom line of fund? But even.
That is very, I mean, normally you just go down the column for the year.
Yeah. Right, because it says fund totals. Right. And is that how much, I guess, the the account 410551 are, is that where, I guess I'm just confused by this sheet, is law enforcement, is that how much they're getting paid, the employer contribution to their health insurances? And then it's road and streets and parks, is that public works kind of split over those categories?
We didn't split it on this one. All right, Ginger, you have
I'm
notes
looking at it
in
too.
here.
It's actually and maybe I'm not reading it right.
I think you are, because if you add them up, it comes to that total.
So. Insurance, employer contribution, so these are all like public works, road and street maintenance parks. Is this our actual for the year? That is the actuals for the year, okay, but now.
Some.
Okay,
So this is for,
Okay.
this is for as well. And we talk about, on page 13 are the permissive mill levies. We talked about last night that 36,313 deficit in there was a mistake, that I'm working with the state to correct that. So these and this are health insurance.
okay,
Because
so I would add this $36,000 to this
You'd
one.
actually add this,
Oh, okay,
because this essentially cancels each other out.
okay,
So
well, I
it
think,
would be
okay.
72.
That's the note on it.
Okay, so 126 plus the 72, which gets us to what? $200,000,
200.
give or take.
And sorry, can you go into detail on that $36,000 deficit? What was that
It was a mistake in a journal voucher.
on our
So,
end? Or on the
um,
state's end?
Yeah, it was
On our end?
on our end. So what it did in the books is it cancels itself out.
Okay.
So we'll get that reversed. But then that amount, that $72,000 amount,
Okay. Is any portion of that on the audit findings? Or is this that mistake?
No.
It isn't something that was found in the audit, it was just a. Okay.
From 5210.
So get this right. Last year we budgeted, what did we budget last year for health insurance? Well, we used about $200,000 worth.
Yeah, it looks like you budgeted $242,000.
240, oh yeah, current budget 23, 24, yeah. And we used about 200,000 of that.
right? As
And-
if you have employees in, out.
Sure.
Didn't you say that it was for 10 employees?
Yes. I believe there's 10.
Thank you for the clarification on that. So it doesn't look like that's big, signature from what you actually spent. Is that 12% more?
guess the other question is what is the tiered system through MMIA? Because that is chosen in when?
So that's that was part of the discussion last night, is to go through and maybe like as part of policy set, new hires, you get to choose from this tier or only like one spouse or just spouse and not whole family or something like that. And when we ran these, we ran it with 2 officers. The officer that had interviewed had 2 children, so we calculated that. And then,
Calculated him at a half a year.
but yeah, at a half a year, because we knew that wasn't.
How does the currently read as far as like you approve? Because I know like MMIA has like the tiered system, is it 3 or 4 levels of tier? Does it say? I'm sure. Yeah, it would be interesting to see how it reads. It's, we've provided health insurance. Does it say at what level or what tier?
And it says you can choose in our policy.
You can choose whatever you want, so
So it needs to be rewritten. However, the council
They
chooses.
haven't changed since you've been on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and I always thought that it was chosen by, I think I tried to have this discussion of, how that, and is it in March that you have to let MMIA know? And can each employee have a different tier? I thought it was, you had to provide all employees the same tier, that it couldn't be a pick and choose, that everybody has to have, the Madison, the Jefferson, the Gallatin, like you were choosing as an organization what level that you were gonna provide your employees. It's not up to an individual.
And I'm wondering like grandfathering. That's the question that I think needs to be posed. Can you do it that way? As a town, is that, I don't know, for lack of a better word, like a discrimination where.
Do you know?
Right, but
know what the tiers are? Is it just a different deductibles or is it a difference? That's the main difference.
It's the deductible, yeah.
And what is the range? It goes from like 500, that's like.
15, I think is. I don't know off the top of my head. I just don't.
I mean.
But if you
but
have
you're
to
looking
choose
at
as
a
an
$300,000
organization.
deficit, it's kind of like, I don't know. Or perhaps, the town would choose that this is what we offer.
But if,
So, I can't remember who said it last night, you got gold, silver, and bronze,
mhm.
That at that time, looking at it to see what each one of those, the cost is for the upcoming year.
Well,
I think that would be like a whole work session thing where you looked at a full recruitment retention plan. You see what I'm saying? Like your wages, your benefits, maybe look at what else you could offer. So you can maybe save in the health insurance, but then do you adjust like starting wage in certain departments? Because if you're cutting one of the better benefits, like I just think you'd have to package it together as an actual plan, not a pick and choose now. Or we have not had a full staffed public works that we could think of since in almost like 2 decades. 2 decades of, so what we're doing isn't working, so we need to work at a different recruitment retention kind of plan.
But I guess my question is when you contact MMIA, is that in the spring or whatever, do you just say all employees get this level? Or does each employee choose because it was my understanding that you chose for your organization.
that sounds crazy.
Oh, okay. They changed that it's now called a menu? Okay.
Open menu.
So each employee can choose which plan they want. Okay.
And they're always gonna choose better plan.
Right,
It's not cost them anything.
right. And I don't know how you,
But if you did a percentage, then the younger kid working in water may be fine having a $2,500 deductible because he's healthy and he doesn't care and he doesn't have a family and he's fine paying the $80 every pay period to have a $2,500 deductible, where the person working over in this department that has a family may not want the higher deductible.
Well, I guess it depends on what's the difference in the premium too. What are we actually talking about? For a single person, is it, a premium of $800 versus $1,200?
Yeah, anytime you add, you're.
Yeah, so I'm just looking, so what, I guess you could just look at it, what is your, if you offered everyone the bronze level, what is that? Versus you offered everyone the gold level, what's your savings? Is it worth it? Is it not worth it? It might not be worth it, it might be an analysis on that portion there. Is it a savings of $10,000? Saving of $60,000?
And if we were fully staffed, this would cost more than 236.
The estimate that we did was the half a year with the current staff, half a year with an officer, and
And then we went 9 months with Public Works.
I think that's where we were at. Because for the 4 positions, I think we ran this number with the second 2 at 9 months. Does that make sense?
And March is when we do that.
March is when they start sending stuff out.
so you
So
have to
we're
like.
locked in
pre-plan.
until next March. No matter what we do,
No matter what you do.
we're locked in until March, correct?
Well, no, because
Assuming
March
it's
is just your preliminary. I mean, you're locked in for the year. But if you were prepared in March to look at it,
Yeah.
when it first comes out, then that would be the time to work on it. And, like Nikki suggested, whether you're looking at a package deal or what, their preliminary numbers are not solid, but they're usually pretty close.
But ultimately, a few years ago, didn't we find that the high turnover rate was the source of like rising expense? We went through, I don't know, 6 public works individuals and our insurance was through the roof.
So
Well,
this
yeah,
whole
we had like
thing,
spot on, like really, really good coverage compared to other communities.
well, this whole thing doesn't really make sense to me. What if I start working for the town and my husband has coverage, so I don't need to opt into town insurance, but you're still quoting for that employee? I don't, this whole conversation is not making,
For those that have insurance, like the part-time, you have to be full-time.
right.
Um,
But say Eric gets his 3rd guy and he doesn't need the insurance, but you've already quoted for that guy's insurance, right?
Quoted. We
Well,
budgeted
we
budgeted
budgeted
for
for
it?
it. Doesn't
Yes.
necessarily mean we'll use that money.
Exactly.
My mind just does not work this way.
But then essentially
It
that
just
person's
doesn't.
that person's gonna lose out, because like John calculated last night, about $11 more. So that person's kind of losing out.
it'd be $11
Yeah.
Of benefits,
Right,
not.
right.
Right. I don't know.
Explain what you're.
My
I
mind
wanna
just doesn't
clarify.
work this way. Like if you're thinking of prorating health insurance, it just doesn't make sense to me. I don't get it.
And I guess that's why maybe the work session would make sense, so that you could.
Yeah.
We could have MMIA come in
Yeah,
and do a presentation and a training,
perfect. Let's do it.
and then look at, again, like your wages.
Mhm.
And I don't know what, send it out on the listserv, see what everybody else is doing for perks. I mean, I know
That-
like the county
that would be-
was looking at like, I don't even remember who was with me last year, the school and the county and the hospital. We all kind of got together and started looking at possibly like a housing project out at some property that the school was working at. It's just, there's been a lot of looking at land collaborations or, what's Big Sky's
Districts.
housing development? They have a housing development group, land trust. They were looking at issues like that, and some of the bigger entities in town were starting to consider something similar so that you could do housing. So maybe you planned in the budget for a part of a cooperation in that, if it were to move forward. I don't know. Or if you could actually kind of plan CDBG now that we're eligible in that 51% for one of those as your next plan. For housing maybe is the bait and not the insurance, is that, I guess is what I'm saying. Because it doesn't matter how great the insurance is if you can't live in a camper because it's pretty much not allowed. So if there's no place to live, the insurance isn't going to do us anything.
It's a little, I mean, it was a little eye-opening last night that we pay as much in insurance as it does to run the police department. Pretty much.
Mhm.
That was eye-opening to me, but I also understand, we obviously can't go back and take that back once we've offered it
Yeah.
to an employee. Maybe the proper way forward is to, and obviously we're locked in right now to what we have. Maybe the proper way forward is to schedule that work session, but look at all of our policies moving forward and grandfather in the people that are here, but anybody new that gets hired, gets offered insurance at a lesser rate or a lesser, instead of gold, they get bronze or silver or whatever that is to save money. I just think that, next year it's going to be $250,000 for our insurance. And I just don't see that as sustainable long-term. And we can't take back what we've already given to employees or else we're going to lose the whole show. And we can't pull that off.
I think you can still offer insurance with your deductible.
Yeah.
And that's the main difference, still offer the same coverage, but then your deductible goes up. My deductible goes up every year, it's 15.
Yeah.
$35,000 for the whole family, but it is.
I think we just need to take some time and look at that and plan a way forward. So if all new employees come on at a lower level, then 5 years from now, at least we'll be at 230 instead of 300,000 5 years from now, because it's just going to keep going.
And it has been.
And it has been, and that's unsustainable for, what's our overall budget? $1 million?
$1.5 million.
So 1.5, so.
And that's in tax funds.
Yeah, so, I mean, our overall budget's 1.5, we're spending 250 on insurance. That's what percentage at, 25%? So that's 20% altogether on insurance of overall budget.
250,000 to get my street paved.
Yeah. We wouldn't have anybody there to pave it.
Couple of
Yeah, we
blocks.
wouldn't have anybody running the paver, that's the problem.
But there could be a way of, if you save on the bronze level premium, you could do some kind of housing initiative or some other thing to offer to recruit employees. There could be a way to do that, because right now your permissive levy only covers about half of what insurance is actually budgeted to cost.
Yeah.
So, which is coming out of this. So maybe that's a way to look at it, is to use the difference between bronze and gold and to come up with another recruitment strategy like Nikki's suggesting. Or another kind of benefit.
Something. I've been looking, but housing's like the only one that, I mean, it's what the school is used clearly, and when we went through
What
a
the
whole
hospital
variance,
is used.
and the hospital is used, it's
Pretty much every
much
business in town.
everybody
Yeah.
in town is
Yeah,
used.
yeah.
It's been
So-
kind of it might need to be the transfer of focus there.
That's true.
So, but yeah, and then there's those lots in the North 40. Sure, habitat, and we would potentially deal on them.
They should just give them to us.
But I think that's what they did in Big Sky for their t-shirt with them.
Yeah.
All right, just so I'm clear on this health insurance stuff, the timeline. They come out in March, when
Preliminaries.
the preliminaries come out in March. So walk me through the whole process again. If I missed it, I apologize. How do we select this and how are we locked in right now? And I understand if we are, but what is that timeline? What, if we were gonna make a change, when do we have to make a change by to have it reflected in next year's budget?
I would say by May.
By May?
Yes, John, let me check.
I would do it sooner
Let me
than
go
that.
back and check to be sure of the,
Yeah.
of the timeframe. And I will let you guys know. That way, I mean, you could put it, pre-calendar it to work on it.
Yeah, in February, so, yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
So, but let me get you.
Yeah, I just don't want to get behind the eight ball and get to this point next year and be like, oh, we're locked in for another year, you know?
And then,
I will write myself a note to give you guys a good time frame of, well, all the insurances.
Yeah.
But the health insurance is the big one. There's not a lot we can do with the property
No,
And the
yeah,
liability.
that is what it
You
is,
know,
yeah.
And I think they come out, they start coming out in April, I think. But let me get you, I'll write myself a note and get you guys a good time frame for when, for the health insurance.
and then start working backwards with it. Like I would do
Exactly.
a consultation with legal and then even with MMIA themselves with making sure that there's, like, again, that you don't fall in some discrimination loop that would get you in more trouble somehow, some way. Just double check all of those factors and have them pre-ready for.
I just don't want to get to next year this time and we're 250. We're locked in for another year.
Yeah.
Let's ride.
Okay, so 390s insurance. Do we want to go back to revenues so that we know there where
Yeah.
where all of this came from and our best, and we always project or this is base low, right? Our revenues are actually base low in some of it.
Were the things Ginger was gonna double check, were they double checked and maybe not updated on the drive or?
Oh, yeah, there were some numbers, figures that were not put in correct.
We have the $18 mistake. Not that. Okay. What they asked for, like on the police funding, that you saw that, I think John, on John's, I think he picked up the wrong number because on his budget, he had that $25,000 number instead of the 23. And I didn't see him this afternoon to show him that. So it wasn't the 25.6.
I didn't have it.
But wasn't there something else with library too that was not, yeah.
It was like that 347% change.
Oh, yeah.
It is in road and maintenance and compensated absence. Page 4, number 130.
Yes,
Compensating absence.
Oh,
yes,
I'm sorry, I missed that today,
okay.
That's the other one.
but I will. Are you guys good for a minute to go with some other stuff and I'll run look?
And that's the compensated absence. Is that what?
Yeah,
Yes, on page,
I think yes.
Page 4, number 130.
And what, there's something on the salary and wages for administration?
Oh, just to take a look.
I know that was later in the evening, so
Yeah,
Yeah.
and those,
that was right.
that
Okay.
came out, but
But yes, the 347% increase from last year seems strange. Okay. Well, Ginger's looking at that one. Where's my worksheets to compare to? Okay. Where is? Where is my mill value? I guess that doesn't.
so as of June 30, that number was correct. But since Kyle has left, there's $1,700 off of that. But what the software does is it produces that 6/30/24 amount at year end. So that's where that came from. But that has already dropped 1,700. And I guess at this point, I could go through every one and change them. Every account and fund that he got paid out of, because they're all distributed according to those percentages that I gave you.
Mhm.
But that was what it was at 6/30. And that is, it's doable. But I think, well, he's the only one,
But he was replaced, right?
just a couple days ago.
All right. Are we ready for the revenue part to go through them?
Sure.
I mean,
We're
they're
ready to-
pretty much set for some of it. All right. Some of it is our best. There's not a lot of trending information for some of it. All right. First one you're going to see is property tax. That's the same number on column number 6, or yeah, column 6. So that's where that one came from. And then local option tax, all of that is going to end up in your non-tax revenues. So that's where we start to add to our 399,663. That's local option tax.
That goes to streets, by the way.
Yeah, that's the streets one. Cannabis, again, like, I don't know. I took a stab and went with last year's, a little bit less than that. I don't really.
When will that come out? Is that not a
I think
tax?
it comes out quarterly.
It comes out quarterly.
With taxes. And they do break those two out
Yeah.
on what they stand.
But as far as us putting it in the revenue, I don't know. I don't know if that's, so I just left it there. I'm not enough of a expert there to know. And I actually don't think I closely looked, I'll be honest, to see if that was the full year. I mean, that's the full year. The year before that was when it first started and we only had like a quarter, like 1/4 of it.
Yeah, and it was, I don't know if it was even a full quarter.
I don't think it was at that point. It went into effect into November.
No.
Just one shop.
No.
Well, wait, no, yeah,
One shop.
I,
It's the
County's
county.
revenue.
Yeah, it's the
you know.
county's revenue.
No, well, because it's still based on what's in your jurisdiction. It's not like the collective and then distributed evenly amongst like everybody.
So there's a marijuana district.
Say that again.
I mean, is it an area?
Yeah. And the other one that was not operational last year. So that is just from the one. So I guess that number probably will stay. I don't know. Are there more of them in the county than used to be? Maybe I projected that too high. Do you see what I'm saying? Like if there's more saturation of them, they might go less to the one in town. And I don't know. That's my best guess on that.
Place is busy.
You mean your 7,200?
Yeah.
Well, where does the 7,398 actuals?
That's what
Okay.
came in last year.
Sounds reasonable.
From
7,200.
one shop.
From one shop. But again, there's new shops in the county since last year. So I don't know. I don't know what that will do to affect the one in town.
Is it off of what they sell?
Mhm.
yes.
Oh, it is?
3%.
Medicinal
Oh,
3%.
right, yeah. Sorry.
or not medicinal.
Recreation.
Recreation.
So again, not a lot of trending information to go off of. And I didn't really consider multiple shops in the county. So
Can that tax ever be increased?
No.
that's a, yeah.
It's not.
Mhm.
You could institute it.
All right. So also in your non-tax revenues, that's where all of our licenses and permits are going to come from. General business licenses, we went somewhere in the
Down
middle.
on those
Yeah.
Because of the new laws coming out that we can no longer charge like the liquor fee that we had on the books. So
Wait.
say bars, but since they sell, different items, whether they sell mugs or whatever, meal cups, or whatever, we do a basic business license. So instead of collecting
$250 for liquor, you can still general.
Is that accurate? Because I'm pretty sure I still paid $250.
We didn't change it. I put it forth. Because there was a note on the calendar to reevaluate business license fees. And we said, leave it.
But was there any, did you send a notice to these businesses saying that they only owed X amount? Or did they just write a check for what how did that work? I have my,
Well, that, and I don't know at the time, Nikki, of like when you pay yours, if that has actually been enacted yet. So that's something else to probably check as a state.
Yeah, so the state's saying, hey, you can't charge people extra, you have to charge them on a regular. And so that might not have taken.
But they're all due in July, aren't they?
That's what I was just about to say.
yeah,
They're
like,
all
I
due
have
in
to pay
June or
mine.
July, aren't they?
yeah.
July 1st.
But that's why we can look back in the minutes, but we had said, do we need to go back through? Because we did business license by resolution. And we talked briefly about the short-term rentals and.
I remember that, but I don't remember what came out of it.
Because
Right,
I think most of the focus was on the short-term rentals and like,
But
how do
then
you
that's-
approach that? Because of the new, and we brought up all the new like wording and how you put it. And do you remember this
And
conversation?
the page, it was different because it had the additional page. The notary page that you guys added.
Oh, that's
That
for,
page was discussed in a meeting.
that's for sewer.
It doesn't matter. I mean, realistically, that
Most
was,
people don't have to do it. But your restaurants,
was that written, that wasn't written on the paper either. There was no
I didn't write the paper.
intro into that. It was, here's your business license, get it notarized, bring it back.
I
It
even
didn't
brought the
come-
second page to a meeting and asked you guys about it,
Yeah,
and nobody looked into it.
I did.
Well, you already knew about it, because I'd already taken it to you and asked you what I was supposed to do with page 2.
Yeah.
So, by resolution, business licenses in the book. So we chose not to reevaluate them. We didn't change anything. We ran off of the ones that were there. A whole bunch of it was also being contested in other places, so we were like, do we just, it's kind of like the 80, when we talked about the ADUs, because there was the Bozeman group that challenged all the accessory dwelling units, and so we were like, maybe we'll just wait and see what happens with everybody else and go from there before we put a whole bunch into legal and trying to decide how it all fits in.
So, but with the new state requirements for this year, most likely revenues will go down.
Yeah, it's the guess.
Bottom line.
Zoning permits,
They've slowed.
More fence permits, less actual building permits is the trend that's happening now.
So does the increase in property tax even level this out at all?
We gained, as the taxes go up and our mill work goes up, the number of mills we can levy typically goes down. So you don't gain a lot. I think this year we gained like $30,000.
33 and some change.
Yeah, with all the building and stuff that has gone on here.
So yeah, theoretically, we really shouldn't be digging into cash reserves like that, right?
We really should be looking at impact fees.
There's only so many lots left. More of an annexation is really.
Annexation.
And then impact fees.
But that's kind of what the growth policy questionnaires and stuff, like everybody, it was unanimous, pretty much, the impact fees. All right, animal licenses, they stay kind of right in there. All right, there's our rest area amount. As you see, it slowly trends down over time. So 9,000, 8,586, 8,297. So we get less each year, even though the cost of toilet paper, power, and everything goes up every year.
Does that ever get reset? That just continually goes down every year?
That's what we've noticed.
Bozeman's went away,
Mm-hmm.
so.
Good to know.
So it's something that we kind of watch for in it and know that more than likely some of the general fund will, through parks, have to help out with the rest area.
Well, they do help out a lot with their labor.
Yeah.
They do all the labor down there for fittings and et cetera.
Not a whole lot in the lifeguard, card tables, video gaming, that's all just based on last year's kind of state entitlement share. Ginger, you want to go over?
Is the video machine, sorry,
Oh, you're good.
is that based on each machine or the businesses with the machines?
I think it's the number of machines.
So if a place expands and adds machines, then
It would
who
go up.
monitors that?
State.
The state.
This,
This
yeah,
all comes from the state.
Okay.
the state gaming department.
State entitlement is, oh my gosh, it's been so long. It's, I'm gonna have to look back, I'm sorry. But it's money that comes into the state that they pass on to towns, and MMIA got this enacted for us. I think it's been about 8 years now. And it's based on population. So, but they also have it set to, at the state to steadily increase. That's why you see the increase each year. But for the particulars on it, I honestly will have to look back.
So that's just the number sent to us.
Yes, they send us the form each year of this is what each town's getting.
Last year's payment that was received in July for police department, court fines.
So should the budget for this year be 10,000?
No, this is the payment that was made in July, so it's for this fiscal year, for the 5,000.
So they pay in the rear.
All right, so state entitlement share payments come from taxes and fees that local governments send to the state general fund. The state then pays back the local governments an annual amount to compensate for lost revenue. The entitlement share program was completed in 2001 to address a number of issues, lost property tax, complex accounting. Google told me.
What did you, what
The
was?
state, the Montana entitlement share,
What
we
was
were
the,
wondering where that came from, so I just Googled it.
Thank you.
Yeah,
but 2001?
it started in 2001.
Looks like vehicle, boat, and aircraft taxes and fees pursuant to.
The program that allowed the state to reimburse local governments that were hit hardest by property tax reductions. Must have happened in 2001 because they haven't reduced since then.
Okay.
Thank you.
Google AI does crazy things.
All right, on court, went somewhere in the middle.
$25 was this whole year.
The actual for
Oh.
last year was 33.
So it was about 6 months, right? 6 months with a full-time.
Well,
Patrol
and then the
officer.
other part of that is like Jordan, I have to say, like she got really aggressive about cleaning up old cases and old fines and everything else. So I don't know that it's just an officer amount. We have a really thorough judge that's cleaning up old and getting those payments in as well.
So, I mean, it's double what it was just a couple of years ago. So, yeah,
Yeah, so
that's a revenue stream for us.
Nope,
Nope. Can't look at it that way.
nope.
Nope.
That was, I will say that there was multiple officers and now a judge that has been collecting on probably old stuff that showed up on this that probably occurred previously. Is the number increase? We'd have to actually break it down on, and I'm sure I can get that report from Susie on how much has been collected on not this fiscal year's old cases. I don't know how else to deem them other than Rents and leases.
What all falls up in,
The ambulance bay at the apartment.
What's the current rent on the apartment? Or for each of those units?
500 and 700.
The ambulance is 700?
500.
What?
Ambulance is 500 a month. Apartment is 700.
And the dump's $1.
What's the specs on that? 1 bedroom, 1 bath?
1 bath, 3 bedroom.
For $700? Wow.
Maybe I'll
It's
go
above
there.
town hall.
Yeah, I mean, you can,
Did it go down? Yeah.
No, it was 500.
Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, we moved it up last year.
No, it was
2 years.
2 years ago.
the last bit of the previous.
I mean, that's your employee housing. To
You
a
have
point.
You have to remodel it to make it.
$1 a year, not $1 a month, $1 a year also
But what do
If
we
you're-
do for the dump?
For the dump.
for
But
the dump.
What do we do for the dump?
The
Right, but that's it.
property that the town
We don't have to
owns,
maintain
that
it,
the
we don't have
county
to
leases
employ it,
for
I mean-
$1 a year.
Why should we charge, like, what, I don't
I'm
understand.
sorry, we had a side conversation.
That's,
No, but the dump.
Yeah, so the disposal site, why aren't we charging the county more? Because we pay X amount of dollars as a town employee or town, we pay for it.
wait a minute. How much dump out there?
Dump out there, the disposal site.
if we're looking at revenues, I'm just saying that's
Yeah.
a revenue that we should probably
Is that a
examine.
contract? Is that, it's renewable every year or?
But they
That's
haven't
a
even-
lease from like this
That is renewed,
19.
that automatically renews?
Is it like
That I
100
found
years?
We just serve them notice and saying. we're
That I
all
found
done.
in the deep, deep dark of the file cabinet of 1970 something. This lease was formed and maybe it was since
But
then.
wait, do we pay property tax on it?
No.
No.
So we
We
don't
don't-
have to
we-
man it, we don't have to fund
No,
it.
but again, the town of Ennis is subsidizing the rest of the county. Just like we do with the school resource officer, we're giving away services.
We haven't received our dollar in several years as well.
That we
So
should,
that might be a
Revenue.
action item for an agenda item for later, is to let them know, hey, we're gonna start charging you. You should charge them at least as much as the ambulance.
yeah, I mean, if we can get $500 a month for that,
Because if they had to go buy property somewhere else, they'd probably.
if they don't pay, we just close the gate, right?
No. I don't want it in the river, sorry. Like, unintended
But
consequences.
you could, they got their own dump up Jack Creek Road, you can make them go that way.
And destroy that road.
We gotta renegotiate that one with the county. Do we have that lease? I mean, just, sorry, on that, is that like the thing?
Sure, I can scan it in and send it out to you guys.
Yeah, I'd love to see that.
I think I was looking for Lions Park agreements way back when I found.
Is the bay and the apartment are those yearly things, or I'm assuming the bay is probably longer than a year, right?
They're not set lease, like the lease contracts now are for the ambulance bay, it's month to month.
And the
And I
apartment,
think the apartment's set up that way too, that you can give like 30 or 60 days notice, either party.
Yeah, and I think you'd have to make it ADA compliant to rent out for employee housing. Wasn't that,
And the stairs are a big concern.
so.
That's
you
a
have to
whole
put
thing.
an elevator. in
I have
this
a file.
building To make it,
but it's not
employee housing.
liability having somebody else
It is.
Stairs?
It is.
Yeah,
There's,
so
But
she goes through them where she
Again,
falls
I don't
and
know if the grandfather clause played into that or not. Might be a certain percent of your renovation triggers ADA, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So by law, we have to have it ADA compliant if we put an employee in there.
and they,
Maybe it's the
like
You
same.
when
would
we
think
even looked
any
at,
person,
when we looked at offices as well. Unless you make reasonable accommodations for, like visitors. So you have another space that they come down to and,
For officers, but for,
for an apartment, I
Huh.
mean, people rent third floor apartments and they're not ADA.
I put my employees in things I'm sure are not ADA compliant.
Yeah, but you're not a government.
Yeah, that's right.
That's true.
that's a can of
But
worms.
that would be interesting to see if there was a certain amount of renovation that would require a trigger an ADA. Because even to have an employee that doesn't have a disability in the.
Pretty sure it is. I'm thinking it's like a state. I think if it's more than 50%, then it has to be coming to ADA compliance.
If it's a commercial building.
Oh, that's true. Oh.
Other miscellaneous. Wow, I'm already blanking. Ginger, can you help me with that one?
The reimbursement? Or which one?
Miscellaneous revenue.
Other miscellaneous revenue.
Oh, I'd have to print it, but I don't. I know the reimbursement for it is, that's the code we set up for
That's what it is.
people that are billed out, for forest services that we bill back.
for forests, oh,
We
Yeah.
did that as part of the permit process where we added that I think it was our first year
whoever
that
applies for the permit will pay the planner back.
planner, because we don't have impact fees, so at least you're paying for the consulting fees.
I heard forest service and my brain is fried and I was like,
That's what that is. Is
Oh,
bill
yeah,
backs,
anything in trees.
yeah,
The 6,000
I'm
or
not
the
kidding, my brain is,
6,000.
No, I think it's
No.
1,000.
Yeah, it's
6,000
1,000.
Reimbursement.
I'm glad that you clarified that, because I was thinking trees.
mm-hmm.
Okay.
So what was other miscellaneous? We don't know yet.
I can go do a printout.
Let's go. Can we grab that?
Right
Yeah.
off the top of my head, I don't
Yeah, let's,
recall.
Mm-hmm. I'm kind of curious as to why it went from 1, and then it went to 10.
It costs more than that, right? That's the thing.
And sale of obsolete, that's all the old cars and machinery and all that we sold. We made
At
20,
auction.
we made 26,000 on that?
and what did we sell the year before for 25?
That's the total group cost. No. If you go, that 26 that you're looking at is everything under miscellaneous revenue.
Oh, is it? Okay. Oh, it's 3. I was reading it wrong.
Junk.
You made $3,500 on shit that you sold at auction?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. What'd you sell the old grader for?
I'd have to go pull it.
Not much at 30.
No.
Scrap value.
Yeah.
Scrap. Well, it
And
also
scrap
burned a
doesn't pay
gallon of
anything right
oil every half a block the last time it was operated. So
These new seals.
Well, I checked it out right. They're using it now. The guy that bought it for dirt cheap, he said it worked perfect. He was excited for that sale.
I'm sure.
He's like, yes, I got this for a steal.
Did he tell you how much? Cause I don't know how much.
Couple $100,
Wow.
right? Something like that.
We'd have to go pull it. And when we do that, we should also pull like the expenditures on it for the year before too.
For that one, we have,
Probably
That's,
it covers like alcohol server certificates, PD reports that come in. There was a donation. Again, fingerprints, crash report, fingerprints. The big one of the big ones on here was, a reimbursement for a sign violation settlement. Oh, that, okay, yeah. So it's just kind of a hodgepodge of stuff.
What did you say about alcohol serve?
Alcohol serving certificates, anytime like the Long Branch is gonna serve off-site at an event, they have to come in and get an alcohol, it's called an alcohol service certificate.
it's required by state law for them to notify, and we charge a fee to review the documents to do the thing.
So it's just kind of a hodgepodge of,
Is it really a break even?
Is that for like
Probably.
a chamber thing, or even if it's a wedding or something like that, that still counts?
that still counts, if they're serving off-site of where their license is based.
Is this where the tap money went to?
I believe so.
How much was that?
Oh, no, I'll let you.
325.
325 this year.
I don't know if we.
I know it was 325 last year.
Okay, investments and investment earnings. This is the interest, right? This isn't short-term investment. This is, right, Ginger?
It's the short-term investment pool up at the state. And we've been running anywhere from 5.2 to 5.8 lately.
Correct. Did we lump the interest at Madison Valley Bank in there as well?
Yes.
Okay. So that's based on last year's numbers as well. No trend before now. Again, during the audit, Ernie recommended that I approach the bank with asking them if they would try and match the STIP amount, because all of our money in short-term investment pool is at anywhere from 4% to 5%. And at Madison Valley Bank, we were getting 0.05% on what we had there. And Mr. McNally graciously said that every 3 months that Madison Valley would evaluate based on short-term investment pool and try and keep it, and then keep it within that same range. So we went from 0.05% on that, on the monies there, now to 5%. So there should be a different trend there as well. But until you know, you just, on the revenues, you leave it be.
But you approached the bank on that one?
Correct.
They weren't gonna offer.
Yeah, right.
And that, I would have to crunch the number after a quarter to see what the actual projected is, but we didn't start that until, I want to say it's been about a month. So we're not through a full quarter to know what that's going to be. All right, interoperating. Why am I at a loss?
So a portion of that is like water and sewer
Sewer.
paying into the IT fund, their portion into IT fund, which I saw on the expenditures last night.
Nothing on the next page. This is the 6 mills if you're on page 4 for the library.
It's a total of 16.
Yes. And then Karen gives us the contributions from the Friends of the Library.
So that local share revenue is the half a mil that they get from the county annually.
Okay.
That's the contributions?
Local share
Yeah,
revenue.
Local share revenue. That's in the county, that 175, 613.
Okay.
The 2,000 comes from Friends of the Library. 6,200 comes from the state.
Okay.
That's it on theirs.
Correct. Planning board, that's the mill assessment from property tax is the 30,946, and then the other portion is the 819 grant, the 30,000 plus 5,000 cash match and 1,000 in kind.
So before last year, was there this page?
They had money that had carried over, that 11,700 or 11,977, but they weren't actively doing anything, so we were just kind of funding them getting started.
Yeah,
Some
it was
supplies
the
and
email
training
supplies training.
and stuff, but this year with what they've got coming down the pike, thought better start building them a little bit.
So the next page is just the local government review. That was the resolution the whole voted for that amount. I gotta say hi Brittany last night, so hi Lisa, thank you for volunteering.
Does it need to require more people?
It's appointment after after election, you have 30 days to appoint the third person.
It's 3 total.
Someone has to apply to be appointed.
Yeah.
So last night it was Sharon Christensen, Steve Maduro.
And Gail Shearbarker.
Oh, they did last, I don't remember.
Yeah, it was Sharon Christensen, Gail Shearbarker, and Steve Madura.
Oh, I only remember Sharon.
2 of the 3 have graduated to county level now. They're doing the county assessment.
Oh,
Oh,
wow.
there's an election now. There was like.
Oh, yeah. A lot of people.
11 people put in for 3 seats.
Oh, right, yeah.
Oh, wow.
There was quite a few for Virginia City too.
Mm-hmm.
There
4 or
was more.
5
There was an election for Virginia City too.
Nobody wanted to do Sheridan.
Yeah.
Like one.
Bob Snow, I'll do everything over there.
All right. So this is the retirement portion. levied amount.
And then
For,
again, the other is coming in from water and sewer.
correct.
Where, what page?
On page 7.
7.
What was
So page 8 and 9 kind of go together because they're both health insurance. One is the tax levy and the other is the permissive. What we can levy for permissive mills.
Can you go back to 7, why is there a significant decrease in revenues? For the PERS, from 32,000 to
Down to 10.
10.
They have 34,000 cash at the end of the year, Lisa.
Okay.
And hers is something that I don't really think you need to have a big ending cash balance.
Gotcha. Okay.
So we,
So this
Pay on
is in a
that whole-
separate account?
PRS,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay. So then you just not levy as much for that?
Levy is, no, because with what, with having the 34,300 left at the end of the year. And then water and sewer. I gotta get on the right page, I turned the page. With what water and sewer, their portion. What is transferred in, there was between the cash available, the transfer in, and then just levying 2 mills, covered the PERS.
Thank you.
Okay. Are we good to go to 8 and 9? This is back to the health insurance. So page 9 is the permissive amount, and it should match. What am I doing wrong here?
Yeah, and the 25,788 is the 5 regular mills. On page 8.
Say that again.
Okay, regular, there's 5 of them, this is page 8. So 5 mills is 25,788.
788.
Right.
Okay.
And then when you go to the next page, we are allowed to do permissive mills to help with insurance, and that again was passed down from the state to be able to do this. The taxed funds that we have, general, library, planning board, et cetera, you can levy extra mills for health insurance from those funds. But you cannot from the enterprise funds because of the way they are structured. It's a make their own money, spend their own money. So the tax-based funds, we can levy additional permissive mills. And there's a formula for it. And I break it down according to what I gave you guys as percentages of what's paid out of each fund. And then take whatever the insurance cost is, break that down into those different amounts between tax-based and enterprise. And then we can levy the taxes through that.
You're making a face.
I still don't think I understand what you said. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
That's okay.
Don't feel bad. I'm sitting here going, wow.
Does fishbowl help?
Okay.
Do you have this?
Yeah, I'm sure. I've seen that.
Maybe full sized.
Okay.
Yeah.
So these are our tax that we can levy taxes for. These are the funds. So health insurance being one of them. So to get what we needed, we had, okay, these are the permissive. So we were able to levy 117,488, which is this amount of mills
Okay.
towards health insurance.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then I levied 5 more. But what came in, this is what came in from the other funds, from water and sewer.
Mm-hmm.
So that gave us our total with supposedly that much left over.
Okay. That makes more sense.
Does that make more sense?
It does,
Okay.
yes.
Sort.
So you'll still have that conversation later.
Oh,
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, so are we good with 8 and 9? And how that works?
yeah, let me go back to that. Sorry.
You want to go back to that?
No, I just X'd out all. You can go ahead. I X'd out everything. Bring it back up.
So street maintenance, this is the assessed street maintenance district, correct?
Yes, it is.
So this is the $75 that shows up on all the properties.
I would expect this to go up some this year with
With all the building?
with
Should
the
be.
additional building, because the Department of Revenue is the one that picks these up for the town when they're out doing their assessments and add it to the tax rolls. So I expect an increase, but I had no idea really how much.
Well, looking back over the previous actuals, it doesn't look like it's a huge amount.
No.
$3,000-4,000 a year increase. Actually,
Yeah,
or
which I
less.
guess that, you know, when every house that's built is it's added.
$75.
What is it for?
Probably good.
Or is it only for
I think vacant are 35, and then it goes to 75.
Once it's improved.
Any other questions? Library trust, we talked last night a little bit. But they're enjoying the increase in the interest rate as well. Hopefully it stays up.
Okay, past the halfway mark.
Yay. Um, Insurance premium for interlocal government revenues, that's the 5,400, from the state to third class towns and cities for training.
I thought it was 3. I thought it was more than that.
Was that on Moore's handout?
Yeah.
It was last night.
It was because we had 2 officers at a time, so it was more last year, so now it's back to the officer drop back.
I thought it
It will drop back down.
was 6,000. Wasn't it in threes? And also, if this is revenue, wouldn't that,
This is specifically this revenue,
to police?
the pension.
So I guess the mills wouldn't be included in this, the levied mills?
No,
No, I do a report every April and send it to the state for, to show what training has been done. So it's,
it has to fall under this category.
Okay.
Can I ask a question on expenditures for the preliminary budget? You have $9,000, but we're only getting,
That's what I thought. It was like 369.
so I'm just curious as to why you're budgeting a $2,700 deficit in this category. Or I guess,
because they have a cash reserve.
do they have cash reserve?
Mm-hmm. The last one.
And how much is that?
I would have to look at that.
And is there, I know Scott would always put money away in cash reserve. I mean, I think that's how the town was always supposed to send the academy. So is that happening?
Yes, we have that budgeted for the 1,800 if there's a second that we have to send school.
And it's only $1,800.
It's only, that's what I was surprised.
Yeah.
We're not sure with the new meal package. That was the only question, is that like part of the difference is a new caterer, which
But still,
if
that's
you
a
talk to
3-month
Matt after
program,
the last
wasn't it?
one, he said
3 or 6?
it would
Well,
take
what
care
are,
of it.
I mean, what is he planning on spending on $9,000? I mean, why would you, is there a specific training that he wants to see? I just don't know why you would spend more than your
Allotted.
allocation.
Yeah. That's a good question.
Is there a credential or?
So you're saying we budgeted what for training?
3, 6, 9,000, I think, right?
Yeah, it's $9,000 even.
Even.
Split evenly between travel, services, and supplies. When your allocation is $5,400.
Yeah. Good point. Does anybody know, is there some special whiz-bang training that we,
And again, I wonder if part of that would be if he gets a new officer or.
well, we take the 1,800 off of that. So 9,000 minus 1,800 for the academy is what, that's,
7,200.
yeah.
He's got 6,200 coming in.
Got 60, yeah. So that,
Because what's the other miscellaneous?
It's CPR.
So the personnel training is travel, 3,000 travel, 3,000 training services, 3,000 for training supplies is what he has it allocated to.
Is this CPR classes that are, is that 800 come from the school for those CPR classes? What's this,
I'm not,
CPR what?
I think so. I think
Okay.
it's
62, which is $1,800. I mean,
Because I mean, he doesn't have CPR classes throughout the year. I've never seen that.
We're not
well,
a
could you
training
shave
facility.
$800 or whatever, $600 off? Oh, wait, what would that give us? Oh, wait.
62, that's 28 divided by 3, so like 900 some dollars out of each one of those categories to make sure that it matches what you're bringing. And then that way, if a bigger piece of equipment or some other.
I think 1,800 was the initial for the state program, but that's not all of it.
Yeah, because it's a $2,800 difference between what's revenues versus
Expenditure.
expenditures.
Revenues from just this training program. So that's us kicking it out of general fund into the training as well.
Well, that would go towards deficit.
I also kind of feel like that's one of the high liability areas, and if you train properly, you decrease your liabilities and probably prevent.
So there was 10,600 cash remaining in that fund.
Now, which one? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, police pension and training,
Oh,
that fund we were just talking about, there's 10,600 in the fund. They can come all out of this.
This fund is monies provided from the state for only police training purposes. This is not funded through the state's tax or the town's taxes or general fund and can be only used for police training for Montana code.
So if there was police training out of the general fund, it could be easily paid for out of the cash reserves of the police training account.
do you think it's budgeted high because he's anticipating more training with our second officer coming on board?
You don't know their skill level. Like if we're to get somebody that has previous experience, you would have less. If we have to start from scratch and go all the way through, then you're going to have more time at the range. You're going to have more rounds. You see what I'm saying? You are going to have more training materials.
Is this money that comes from the state not taxed? Is that what you were saying, Nikki?
According to John's report, this fund is from monies provided by the state only for police training purposes. This is not funded through the town's taxes or general fund and can only be used for police training. Montana code annotated. $3,000 for travel, $3,000 for training services, $3,000 for training supplies.
And is that based on one officer or two? And then if it isn't used, does that be paid back?
I would imagine too, because everything in his budget was for 2 officers.
Yeah, I think I vaguely remember seeing it was for 2 districts.
So currently it has 10,006.
Yeah.
And now it's gonna get 9,000 more.
Nope, it's gonna get 5,400 more.
5,400.
But I thought that said, you said 3,000, 3,000, 3,000.
That's the expenditure.
Expenditures, sorry,
That's
expenditures.
Okay.
That's what he's spending.
Yes.
Out of it. So is he using his cash reserves to do that? Or is it coming out of the general fund? How much is coming out of the general fund?
I think we moved a little out of the general fund, didn't we?
Yeah, oh, wait, yes, I did.
Last night?
I seem to remember that, but I could be wrong. Here's plenty.
Well, here it says it's not funded through the town's taxes or general fund.
Ginger, did we edit anything for the PD last night?
No.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Oh, so right here you've got operating supplies under law enforcement. A budget of $8,000.
Which he said was for upgrades to the equipment.
So you can pull your cash reserves out of that fund. Free up $8,000 in your general fund.
So the police training fund is strictly for training.
The 5,400.
Of which there's
So then how
10,000
can he
right now.
expenditure, I mean, that comes in, yeah, from the state. But also under the expenditures, it can just be training. And I don't know. I don't see training. Am I missing something? I don't see training on his.
In
No,
his
but there's
itemized,
supplies.
in his itemized,
Training supplies, that would be one and the same.
and then police department hiring, there's $5,000. Is that for?
That's not training, that's all the eval, and we don't do the evaluations
Yeah,
in-house,
sure,
we
yeah,
pay
yeah,
somebody
of
else
course,
to do,
Oh, sorry. Sorry.
yeah, that's not an in-house, we hire somebody else out to do that evaluation.
So,
I don't see anything training in operational supplies.
So everything that he's referred to, the money that comes from the state is line item 370, 80, and 386.
What are you looking at, the expenditures?
Are you looking
Yes.
for operating supplies, Ginger?
No, she was looking for training.
Oh.
Training.
There's probably an overlap between, since there's not categorical thing. Like what's under operating supplies, bullets? What's under training supplies, bullets?
I don't know, because I don't have the printout of what is on the drive. Where he breaks it down.
And I'm looking at the expenditure budget and the anticipation if there is a second officer hired. So that's why that went up.
Yes.
Well, probably. Isn't that not what we were?
But as far as with you going over the
Revenues.
revenues, I mean, the revenues coming in are what they are.
Right, so theoretically we could take that and dedicate it to this and then, like Lisa said, it would be more left in the general fund. Right? Am I?
They have to remain separate.
Well, they would,
They
because all
would.
of his training that he's taking from the general fund would be getting paid for. From
Out
the
of that fund, that
fund
reserve,
pension,
the pension, yeah.
Training. That has,
Okay, that's what I was saying is I didn't see training in this general fund budget.
It's
There could
in
be
whatever was
overlap
in the
between
drive.
What he categorizes stuff in operating supplies and what he
understand.
categorizes stuff as training supplies. There could be overlap.
it is somewhere because his totals
It's right here.
are the same on this page as they are, is what you're looking at.
Yeah. So the left item number is 420130. And then the next number is 370 for travel, 380 for training services, 386 for training supplies.
And you said there was,
420.
130. It's too hard to toggle back and forth through on this laptop. I keep.
Yeah, I guess Nikki, that's what I'm looking at. I see what you're talking about,
Okay.
but I don't see a 420130.
Okay. Well, that's what out of John's email that he sent to us on that's in the drive. That is what it's attached to.
Okay.
And then
so
right under it, it says this fund is from monies provided by the state.
What's 5,400 plus? Where's our actuals? It's 2,300. Ginger, you gave us a number for the end of
June,
okay.
year end.
It's 10.
But that 10.6 is, would be money that
It's
came in.
it's on the from the state.
Yeah, on that report that I send in every year. And then that's the 420-130. All of that is the police pension and training fund that 10,600 is in. So that is money all money that came from the state.
So he basically budgeted
And
all
then
of that.
Have this other 5,400 coming in
Correct.
this year, which would take that then to what?
16,000.
12,000?
16,000.
Oh, 16,000.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And he has budgeted 9.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
So if he's got it in cash reserves, he doesn't necessarily need to budget it to come out of general fund, right? If it comes out of here.
We've got to show training each year though, in order to get the money. I mean, why would we? You can't just let it go.
No, you would utilize that and then not take from general fund, right?
Nothing's come from general fund.
But there's.
We're saying that 5,400 plus what was left from last year is the 16, which is
16,000.
369 is a portion of it, is all budgeted out of the pension and training.
Essentially, the 420-130 is not in the expenditure report.
Because we have the revenue for it, or because it's
I don't know,
all
but
revenue?
Oh,
if
because
all
this is
these
the
numbers, yeah,
This is the general fund,
right.
and so that's coming out of the other fund.
I think maybe a point of confusion is it says additional budget areas at the top of his budget that he turned in. So, and that included the police pension and training, the animal control services, and IT on that page.
But shouldn't the
So he should have put
420-130
the fund number before that 420-130, or the fund numbers before, because that's not in general fund.
I'm not seeing it anywhere.
It's only in the
Only
police
expenditure.
pension, in that 2810.
So it's not anywhere in the expenditure report?
Not in general fund.
I know, but I'm not finding it. What page is it on?
From revenue, 12.
16.
But it's not revenue, it's
16.
expense.
Expenditure is page 16.
Thank you.
There we go.
Answer you were looking for?
I don't know. Was that what? I'm gonna leave it up to the public over there. I don't. Ms. Smith, do you have the answer you were looking for?
You don't
No.
know my answer.
Okay. No. Okay, so
Because she's right, if that is only for training, it's got 10,600 in it, it's gonna get another 5,400.
that's $16,000.
Right, and he
Right.
only needs 9, according to him, that's
Yeah,
him saying what he needs,
yeah.
then why do you need to take it out of?
It's not out of general.
It doesn't have any general.
It doesn't, it stays in the police department only budget.
Yes.
That's why there's not training on in the general fund portion.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's no training in the general.
And again, I think we're wise to definitely promote the training thing. Low occurrence, high risk in every emergency service field, whether it be fire, ambulance, or police. You specifically spend more training time and money on those things. It's why the Montana Sim Truck has a $10,000 mannequin that they bought from the Helmsley Foundation that gives birth. You know, in 15 years on the ambulance, I never ever had that call, thank you, but I went through that training a lot because it's a low occurrence, high risk situation. And that's how you do it in fire, and that's how you do it in EMS, and that's how you do it in police as well. You train for the low occurrence, high risk situations because those are also the ones that tend to have the most negative outcomes.
Which you're saying that, but yet he only used $4,700 last year
For just him.
for just
For
him.
So
just
times 2 would be,
So the one that you're not seeing is while he was gone in July, there was an entire week at firearms training because that's the time of year that it happened. And that he got into that training. And I can't remember off the top of my head without looking how many rounds he went through in a week. But it was a solid week of training.
July of this year.
July of this year. Correct.
so that's what we're not seeing on budget for last year. For this year.
But he would have went July of last year.
It's not always available
Fiscal.
because there's only so many slots available. And I can't remember how many off the top of my head, but it's just like,
But it was this fiscal year that he went. This
Correct.
fiscal that we're looking at. So why aren't we seeing it? Is that a question?
why isn't it in the actuals?
Yes, why isn't it on here? I'm so.
As its own line item. I think he's lumped them into those 3 that travel, training services, training supplies.
how much is well, I don't know, I actually don't know the answer if he stayed at a hotel or
For
at
a
a
week.
training grounds.
I think he stayed at a hotel, because I remember
But yeah, the claims were
approving
extremely high.
claims for
And we
that.
asked
Oh,
how
yeah,
long
I
he
remember
stayed.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's right. I don't know where else you would stay.
I don't know if there's a bunkhouse there or what.
Not that I know of. It's not like
You can't.
the other program. But It's my 2 cents on it. That's what we did in every emergency service I've ever worked at, is sign up for training expenditures on low occurrence incidents.
Well, I was gonna wait, but I'll just go ahead and ask, where are we with the sheriff MOU, and why is there nothing in this budget for it?
There is in expenditures.
There is.
For dispatch services, that's it,
Yes.
right?
But we don't currently have a bill.
And we sent them a contract and they never sent it back, did they?
No response as to
Or no
interest.
signature, I mean,
A contract for dispatch. only.
dispatch, yeah.
Okay, but everybody knows I'm not talking about dispatch. I'm talking about policing.
Actual MOU.
It's the police budget, right? 224 or whatever the bottom line is.
This is the projected. This is what we know based on what we know. If the number comes off different with the sheriff's department, we look and you do a budget resolution.
Budget amendment.
Budget amendment for
Right.
resolution. Budget amendment resolution.
But what
I
if
think that's what we
it's,
said last year.
yeah. And we have that much in cash reserves?
Well, it's something that, it would all depend on what you do. I mean,
Yeah.
that would have to be figured out as you're in the process.
Or would it be pulled from this page?
$50,000?
No.
No,
Oh,
I think that's a lot of carts and horses as far as I'm concerned in revenue, and considering that now it is not just a us look at it item, that the league is now involved in a full evaluation. And that's where it's at currently, is Thomas Jourdain has been reaching out to all municipalities and evaluating what that system currently looks like to work across the state to a more permanent solution for all municipalities.
I believe a more permanent solution from that is going to come out of the legislature this winter anyway.
Mhm.
Somebody's going to get in front of it and
But right now, you're sitting with an unknown.
alright. And is an
So
expenditure.
it's kind of one of those things that you can't cross that bridge until you reach it.
I mean, how much money can you have in cash reserves anyways?
You can have.
Is there a limit?
50%.
50% of the appropriation.
So we can have
50% of 900 and,
appropriations is 1.5, right?
That's
Or is it
bottom
general
line,
fund?
that's bottom line. So you'd be looking at general fund.
Just general.
Oh, okay. Do we have that though? Do we have 50% of that in cash reserves?
No?
Then it's still 40.
I mean, we didn't, yeah. It's gonna be what it's gonna be until we get an answer from the League of Cities, right? League of Cities and Towns.
Yeah, and as I said, I think the legislature is gonna come up with a solution to this problem probably this winter. I mean, I have no knowledge that they will, but I believe that they will.
I think it's been a long time in the making and everybody's looking for an answer
Yeah. And
from
that's what the
all sides.
and that's what the legislature is supposed to do, is solve things like this.
Mhm. And it's definitely been on their radar.
Okay. And then the dispatch in the revenue or expenditure yesterday was
Based off of 2 officers and 1.5 mils.
3 mils
Yeah.
total. Okay.
Which comes out to like about, it's based off of the same thing that we looked at for Bridger, what they do for additional dispatch services as well. All right, so are we to gas tax for revenues?
Gas tax, you're seeing a drop in because last year, this had some to extend. Now this year, it goes back to, just regular gas tax.
Correct.
So that's
We got a little one extra chunk because there was.
a little bonus.
Yeah, just for 1 year. It was nice.
Yeah, it's a nice bonus.
Anything you can get for trees.
Mhm.
So that next page, was part of that bump. So we don't get that this year. That's why there's nothing budgeted in there.
The 473 is the one that. And the tree fund is its grant application, right? That's where that's at.
Corey, you were still good with the 2,500? Last couple of years too, we've gotten donations. Or at least the high,
Correct.
is that how you say it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Correct.
Because we haven't received any funds yet. We haven't applied for funds yet.
Okay.
Next page is like this.
No more COVID. No more COVID money.
18, you want me to go, Nick?
Yeah.
Okay, 18 special assessment, that was, the Madison Avenue paving. And like I said last night, the bonds have been paid, but, we still have some money coming in through the taxes. So that's just what I anticipate for this year. CIP we went over last night, coming in from general fund on the police car, and then the 18,000 coming in from the library. And they didn't do the street maintenance this year in lieu of hopefully doing the parking lot.
No, I thought that was to repay for their grader, whichever way we did it.
Water, the first thing you see is the grant that we got, the meters. And the rest, I think, is pretty self-explanatory. If you have any questions.
Sure.
Sewer, same thing. Nothing really new or,
No. Keep saving that.
ambulance go over here.
No more
Can
revenue.
you explain downtowns?
Yeah.
The interlocal?
Yeah.
Okay. Just that everybody puts in 2,000 a year, each entity? Okay. You're at the end.
2 million. 7.
Can't change
So-
the revenues much like currently.
So on the very, very, very bottom of page 2023, the 2,746,527.
Where
Nikki,
are
where you
you
at?
I'm
at?
still on
Bottom of 23.
Yes, revenue, very last page, very, very, very bottom. 2,746,527. Is that our final?
Yes.
revenue?
They do not put Madtown on the budget document to the state.
Because it's an interlocal, it's not just us.
Right,
It's a separate.
but it's not that much, right? I can't remember what it is off the
It's
top of my head.
$8,030.
Yeah. Okay,
So subtract that out of there.
okay. I can't remember because I already.
So 2.7 coming in, 3.8 going out.
Yeah. Yeah,
Am I
revenue
reading that
versus
right?
expenditure, yeah, according to the numbers, yeah.
How's that work?
I don't know how that works.
Yeah, it shows we're $1 million in the hole.
Okay, so you take out on both of them Mad Towns, right?
So that's 6 on both, so,
What?
8,030.
or 8,000.
Where it's gonna be is in water and sewer. Because they budget ultra heavy.
Well, and part of that revenue was the 400 and some thousand that we haven't collected yet on the ARP, right?
ARPA?
ARPA?
Yeah.
So there's 500, close to 500,000 right there that we haven't collected that
Well, we
revenue
well, we
yet
most
because we don't have a
definitely.
project for it.
Anticipated. Yeah, we've been granted the funding.
But
We have not received it.
we just haven't got our hands on it.
That's what the import are.
Are you looking at revenue or expenditure?
I saw it under revenue. I didn't see it under expenditure.
Is there a reserve? This is a total random. In Mad Towns.
There is, they have about $36,000.
That's where it comes from. Never mind, I'm good then.
So
Because I was like, well, 8,000 is going in and 39,000 is going out. That's a big chunk. There's a difference there. But if they had the reserve, that makes sense.
And it's 370 because we've already spent what's over in that column to the left. So it's been reduced by that amount. The funds haven't been appropriated.
That's the 374.74.
So that's expenditures, but we still have the full 400,000 to come in.
And where does that,
39, is that
Yes.
right?
where does that come from? County? Government?
County,
Has
225,000 of it is from the county.
county's allocation to us. They received that and then distributed it amongst
And isn't ARPA funds from COVID?
American Recovery Plan.
From COVID? Or is it something that you get every year?
No.
No,
Right, so this is still sitting from COVID.
Yes.
But it doesn't
I need a pen.
decrease the difference of the 1 mil because it's 1 billion, because it's in revenue and it's in expenditure. So 439 is listed in revenue, we haven't, that you're saying you haven't received yet, which is fine, but it's still included in the bottom number, revenue and expenditure.
What was that number again?
So let's see what you say.
439, 132 in revenue, 370, 474 in
Take
expenditure.
a look at water and sewer expenditures.
So 68,658.
Spent last year.
Then why are we proposing so much if we're
I can
never
answer that.
getting near the mark? Why do we keep that mark out there?
I can't answer that because I don't do Eric's budget or the water and sewer budget. But if you look, I mean,
His numbers don't seem that far off of actuals, do they? Did it anywhere?
In sewer, especially.
887,000, spent 352,000.
So he's $500,000
Over.
overshot the mark.
Water, he budgeted 609 and he spent 247.
Well, I'd rather have him shoot a little high and not get there than the other way around, right?
But a little high, not that.
So the sewer,
So that's, you're gonna see, I mean, you've got those elevated expenditures sitting out there,
Yeah,
but
and part of the expenditure for the sewer was anticipating the DEQ requirements. They started those hearings in June.
and I guess he's also anticipating, he's got the cell drawn down.
Cell repair and
Line, one of the cells.
we just don't know what those DEQ requirements are gonna be. Like, I don't know how lenient their DEQ is. Like, any experience that I have seen with the DEQ, like, they'll give you a little bit of room, but I don't know what those new ones are gonna be. And honestly, like, as they're looking at a whole watershed system, so instead of it being like each individual thing is permitted, like the mine has so many amount of what runoff is allowed down to the Madison, they're looking at it as a whole section, which would seriously increase the stipulations on ours, and we might have to do like a major revamp very quickly. We might have to haul stuff off. That's with very little.
We might have to implement a resort tax.
Here,
I mean, even if he uses it, you're still gonna have to come up with it. I mean, that's fine that he's over, overrated high, but still, if he uses it, you're still gonna have to come up with it.
Right, those numbers, like Kelly, our former public works guy, like, these are mandatory, I just have to put these numbers in there twice. What they ever use.
I know, here's where I have a little heartburn on stuff like that. So we budget really high, knowing that, oh, we'll never get there, we're down here. But we can get there without anybody looking.
I think we'll notice if we're building a lagoon too.
Well,
But
I know,
yes,
but
yeah.
that's where I worry, where you budget really high and, oh yeah, we'll never get there, let's just, and then, but we can go up to that number without a budget resolution. And if we did get to that number, across the board, we're $1 million in debt.
And if you really needed it, remember, you can do a budget amendment.
Can we have like a 5-minute bio break? I have to make a call.
Yes,
Right at 9. Sorry.
I like that term.
Yeah.
That is a fabulous.
Go ahead. I can sit here and do what I need to do.
Thank you.
Yeah. There it is.
Hey, everyone coming in here, sounds good. I'm currently in a budget meeting, but I will forward this text to her.
Hey, stuff on my phone. This.
We did, so you might have heard me talk about the finance committee we did a few years ago.
Mhm.
So it's just another guy and I were, another commissioner, we're doing YouTube videos on both like accrual accounting, I think, is this type of accounting versus cash. Yeah, but it's one of those things that's kind of in one ear and out the other. I remember it for a little bit.
Yeah.
Don't use it, you lose it.
Okay, I think I am gonna run over. My husband locked himself out of the house. I just went over. Hey, Mary. My husband locked himself out of the house. Can I run over there? Yes. I just came back. So we're recording, so.
Okay, so if we're gonna change the deficit number,
You would
In
have
cuts.
to talk to Eric.
the first thing I would do is not go after the portion of the PD. If we're gonna do it, I would do the paving out front.
Wouldn't do the paving out front?
It's $25,000, that's a big chunk all at once.
Right.
I'd love to cut that out because I think that space could be done
Differently.
differently.
Did we let
We'll wait.
You got that extra piece.
So if we're talking if we're gonna change like the deficit portion of it, where we would cut immediately, I said I wouldn't do it out of PD, I would do it out of our paving project, that's 25,000, that's a big number.
Takes a lot of 25,000s to get to $1 million though.
Uh-huh.
Have to start somewhere, and I'd say 25,000 is at least a very easy start.
Well, it is an easy start, but then I mean, theoretically, if we look at it that way, we could cut, we're fully staffed in front of house. We're short one officer and one public works guy. So what if we took those salaries down and did a budget amendment for when we do hire them? That would be a good chunk. And a budget amendment is nothing. It's a vote, right? A resolution and vote.
Again, I just want you to look at the last page of these long ones that have the non-tax revenues and expenditures.
I mean, it's showing $1 million deficit because we're shooting really high and our actuals come in considerably lower than that. So it's really not a deficit. It's I don't want to say bad numbers in, bad numbers out, but inflated numbers in and then real life out makes it look like that there's $1 million missing somewhere. Is the real solution to adjust the whole budget to 5% over last year's actuals and see where we land for things like that?
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, that would be radical, wouldn't it?
Oh, my gosh.
I don't know, Mr. Businessman, would it be?
Don't look at me. I row a boat, sell a few flies. But that's why it's showing that $1 million is because if you look at actuals from last year, they're considerably lower than what was budgeted. And we just took what was budgeted last year and went with this year. So I would
To
expect
finance
if,
some of
as
it.
long as the wheel doesn't come off something, that our actuals at the end of the year will not show $1 million deficit. It'll show pretty close to home where we should be. But that doesn't mean that, that means that the budget doesn't mean anything. It just means, you know what I mean?
And you know what I hear from the state? So, and this might not be, they said, it's your best guess.
All right.
Sure.
But our best guess is showing $1 million deficit.
That's right.
Right,
Yeah.
Well,
So we're guessing really bad.
right.
right. Right.
And yeah, and but a big portion of that is water and sewer.
Right, what would some of the delta be for water and sewer total? I guess is what.
Just on that last page, that you're looking at $1 million right at the
Yeah.
bottom of that page.
Yeah,
There's $1,094,000. And
$1,094,000.
you're looking to appropriate $2,134,000. But just in the bank right now, you have $3,354,000 and anticipate bringing in another $1,039,000
Mm-hmm.
for a total of $4,394,000 that you have in actual resources.
Yeah.
But those monies can't just be used for anything.
No.
Right, they are designated.
No, it's not just like they give us
Yeah.
Yeah, you
$4
can't
million
say, oh, I'm
and
just gonna
go
run out
play.
of hero, solve it over here and put it here.
No,
And
enterprise
each fund
fund is,
has to be responsible for itself.
So really, that's where the delta's coming from, is the water budget, right?
Yeah.
When we looked at the
sewer
water,
more than anything.
So
Sewer more than water.
when we looked at that just by itself, I think, that one night when we just looked at the water and sewer budget, whatever, I think we noted that, right? It was like
Really high.
800
Yeah.
some, almost $1 million higher than it was last year.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of that was, purchase of vehicles. Purchase of vehicles was like $300,000 to $100,000. That was a third of it. So.
But that didn't come out of water and sewer. Well, sewer made the loan, but that, in the scheme of the large numbers, that wasn't huge.
And it all,
So is it a matter of just revisiting the water and sewer expenditure budget?
the water and sewer too, like, I don't think as a general habit, it's a good habit to use that as our own loan factory. Does that make sense?
It is or is not.
Is not.
Right,
Mm-hmm.
right.
Right, but where else does the town make money?
But we aren't using it as our loan factory,
That's what I was just gonna say, I'm like.
meaning that we're budgeting for a whole lot, knowing that we're only going to get halfway there on the actuals.
Well, I mean, for the other departments to use that.
Sure.
Like, and if we run short, the Steers Alley was like a prime example of where the general fell short for its financials. So then it took that money as a loan. And at that time, there was no projects like anticipated, so it probably wasn't as big of a deal. But they took money from an enterprise fund or loaned, and it was paid back, but for legal services that weren't anticipated. That's a harsh budget.
25,000 paving, I mean, that's a one-time expense. Don't you want to try to change up the budget for something that's gonna be more for years to come, opposed to just, okay, yeah, 25,000, that'll save us this year, but what if we just, you decide to pay next year, then it's gonna cost you 25,000 next year, and then you're gonna.
That's why the town should have an up-to-date capital improvement plan, which was part of the whole, my 4-year plan was water, wastewater, growth policy, and capital improvement. And then instead of having that revenue sheet where you just have 2 departments in there, a library and a police department, you have a facility plan for this building, you have something for water, you have something for sewer, you have a designated amount that you're setting aside for each department, not 2. Which is actually appropriate budgeting, but that's not something like we can just magically whip up. Capital improvement plans are definitely the whole same thing as the growth policy. Request for proposal, go through, you pay somebody, we budget to do that whole document, but that's what really needs to happen to make this cohesive for decades. So you don't have over budgeting in water, you're setting this much aside for capital improvement out of there, basically. That's what. Can you do that? Right? That's how you would do that, is the over budgeted amount. Like instead of re-budgeting it, you'd just set it into capital improvement for sewer, knowing that you may have a mechanical treatment facility that costs $12 million. Correct? Or is it, since it's separate for enterprise fund, is it?
No, I'm in a CIP, you could set up a CIP.
And we were talking about water, like with Joel, he said as soon as there's several towns that he's been working in that every decade when they do their water PER, they have a capital improvement as part of that. So they continue to replace and they have a consistent repair plan, not like an overhaul in 92 and then an overhaul in 2024. And you see what I'm saying?
I do, but I go back to this budget. I understand why you guys built it the way it's not the way I think of a budget. I think of a budget as you look at, okay, I spent 500,000 this year. Okay, we start at 500,000, let's say we go up 5%, and then we add on all the other things we're gonna do. So now we're at 600,000. And that's what we budget, not $1 million.
Right, but you're dealing with antiquated systems and you have,
Yeah.
like, what is the probability that something's gonna go wrong? Ask Eric about last summer, what went wrong, it all went wrong. And then more happened.
You got to take in some of that, didn't you?
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't get to my store out of the back for a month.
But
Yeah.
he still didn't go over. His actual still wasn't over, so.
True.
I guess, yeah, I can't speak to that either. Right, but those were
Well,
all,
last summer would be on the expenditure,
Well,
right?
so in that case, if you had budgeted those amounts, you would have to do resolutions to change those.
Yeah, I just think we're overshooting on some things, and that's showing this $1 million deficit between expenditure and revenue, which I don't think is really there when you really drill down on what we're going to spend. I don't think we're overspending by $1 million.
Right, but it shows that we are.
But it shows that we're overspending by $1 million. And at least we're budgeting to overspend by $1 million.
And if we're talking water and sewer, I mean,
Can't
if I can
move
get
it.
Nikki for a short time tomorrow to meet with Eric, I mean, that can probably be reworked.
Mhm.
Are we gonna make the whole million out of that?
I don't know until you physically sit down and look at it. I mean, looking at last year's numbers, actuals,
Right. If we take the budget down to a little over next, or last year's actuals?
Well, yeah, take last year's actuals, add 10% to it, and then add anything special that you're gonna do on top of that, extra training, extra, all the new things that are coming up, and that'll get you, that's how I would look at it, but that doesn't mean I'm right. Eric might be right. I'm just throwing things out there to think about.
I do that from a personal business
Yeah.
standpoint. I absolutely estimate as close as I possibly can to timelines, and I get reprimanded by people that work for me, like, why didn't you give us a couple extra days? And I'm just like, so I keep it all straight in my head. I have the closest to the actuals that I can possibly generate. So,
Yeah, and that,
Right. Right.
yeah, I get that, but that was Kelly's answer every year. It was just like, these are what we're told to put in, and
and that might be, I could be totally wrong here. I mean, if I am, let me know.
We don't.
I'm not dying on any hill on anything, but
it wasn't. Yeah, I guess I don't know. That's what I always just kind of, you're not touching these numbers. Read them and weep. That's
just-
pretty much what my understanding was. And I just took that as the answer. So.
Right. And here we sit, how many years later?
I mean, I always thought like budget, and as close as you can come into your budget, at the end of the year, if you were within 3% of your budget, revenue, expense,
Pizza party.
nailed it, man.
Yeah, pizza party. Yeah.
And maybe the margin of error is different in town government than it is in like a small business, where if I go over by 10%, I mean, you got to figure out how to find 10%.
Yeah.
But
so, just a little real quick
yeah,
jotting here. If we took last year's actual in water and sewer, raised them 10%.
yeah,
And took it down to that budget, 929,000.
so it drops it.
929,000.
Yeah,
Yep, and we're at 1.08.
so that's the main.
You're close.
Mhm.
You're a lot closer.
Yeah, and if you guys are okay with, I'm fine with it. I'm just throwing things out. Don't think I'm.
Yeah, I guess I just don't know what the rules are with his numbers.
Yeah,
I don't either.
I don't either.
But the money is there if he needed to do something serious and we could do a budget amendment.
Yes.
Then that sounds like this would be the accurate way to go. But I don't know. I guess I don't know 100% either. I know we can't vote, but can we like show of hands? Anybody?
I mean, you guys have been here longer than I have. What did it look like last year? What did it look
Just
like the
like
year
this.
before?
It's always
I
been a
mean,
deficit.
if we're used to doing this and
It
showing,
wasn't so far out of that.
it
That
wasn't.
Last year?
so big last year,
Okay.
last time, as I recall.
And
We
maybe
weren't having this kind of discussion
Yeah.
last time.
Yeah.
I'd just be, why not see, why not inquire as to what can be done with that?
Is it going to be a trickle down? Because we're supposed to be voting on this tomorrow. So is it going to be a trickle down effect for
You can do a continuation
Tomorrow's the wages
and budget?
and
It's on there.
bills, I think.
and budget.
And budget.
You can
it's
do a
on there.
continuation as well.
Is there an agenda? I didn't see it.
Yeah. It says it starts with mills and levies and then it says and budget.
I
Cause I almost missed it too, cause I normally don't read them.
So
Where is that in the sheriff?
it
There's,
has its own folder. It's
Yeah.
September 5th folder.
Why am I not seeing?
Okay, so
There's-
2024.
I have to
the
look into
September 5 folder. It's in there.
Okay, sorry, go ahead, Nick.
I have to see what changing water and sewer, especially in vehicle, changes. Because if you take, there's only a certain percentage of any vehicle, like there's certain vehicles you cannot touch. Like you cannot buy a roller out of sewer. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
You cannot, they even scoff at like backhoes, which kind of irritates me sometimes because if you tear something up, like to fix the streets, you have to do it out of streets, even though it was a water problem that made you cut the street. Water can't pay for you have to then do it out of streets. So when we readjust this, I have to see how that affects then streets.
Mm-hmm.
Road streets. And it's like some of the things we were looking at for sewer. I know there's like small items of equipment. We did like a larger weed whacker that we would use for the lagoon maintenance, but then we could also use maybe a little bit for the alleys, stuff like that, or if I have to break it down a different way.
I don't know, if all of you guys are happy with how it sits, then let's move on. Because
I would
there's
like,
4 of you.
I would like an answer. No, I'm curious, yeah, it's like.
So if you move those all, then all of that just goes into the cash reserve for those 2 funds. Correct?
Yes. But I think I looked at a wrong number, so give me just a minute here, I'm refiguring this.
Does this have to be voted on tomorrow, or can it be part of the September 12th meeting? Are we up against the deadline?
Yes,
What did I have for a date on here?
What is the
Is that
deadline?
what you said, Ginger?
what's that?
We can vote on the budget on if we put it on the agenda for next
The
Thursday.
12th.
Well, yeah, I meant tomorrow's the budget.
Deadline.
That's what I thought, we had 40 days or something.
30.
days
30.
from the time we received.
On 8/5.
Last year you voted on it in November.
Yeah.
Right, but it's
It was
a
way late.
hit to penalty.
Which makes you ineligible for future grants.
Yeah.
That's not possible.
I looked
But
at
it's
the wrong
not
column
what?
when I added those numbers.
No, it's not
Actually comes out to
impossible, but then it
815,000.
No, still, I mean,
creates a
800,
bunch of others.
that's pretty darn close to our fluctuation there.
Yeah.
I mean, if you guys are okay with how it is, knowing that there's $815,000 worth of over budgeting in that deficit,
In the water and sewer.
in the water and sewer alone, without picking apart all the other things, I'm sure we could get there. If you guys are okay with that, then let's roll and approve the damn thing. But if you're not okay with that, then we gotta fix
Can
it.
you do it like that and then do a budget resolution later where we should know very soon if they held hearings? I don't know when the DEQ requirement's coming out. You could change that through budget resolution down to cash reserve and then maybe even put like a capital improvement item in. You see what I'm saying?
Lay it real out there for us. like yes.
Like you could adopt it like this. You could go back through and do a budget resolution as the whole of water and sewer. After we have like an actual quote on the sludge removal, which we asked and we didn't have an estimate on that. Break down some of those bigger costs that we think we're going to do, leave those in there, and then budget the rest into cash reserve in water and sewer.
But when this could be next month, this could be next year after we just let it roll and forget about it. Right? I mean,
Well, we need to,
kind
get
of
a
what we
plan.
do.
We can vote it through with conditions.
We can't, can we?
I
Yeah.
don't think
I think we tried
so.
to do that last year. No.
You can't do that.
We did try.
I mean, I can see where Nikki's coming from, saying, let's get a little more research into this and find out.
What the actuals could be.
Yeah, what the actuals, I mean, what last year plus 10% plus any special stuff.
I mean, the library is an example. The preliminary budget I saw from Karen was $731. Shortly after that, I think 2 days later, the HVAC repair came in, and that changed all of that.
Mhm.
So if we at the last bit know that DEQ is going to change our standards, and we're going to have now we know that that it's drained and we need a sludge removal, we get a bid out for that and take the sewer down to what its actuals should be in one resolution, budget amendment resolution. But you could do 10%, and I think you have the potential for a fiasco of budget resolutions on each items.
Mhm.
Where, it could be just one area.
Yeah.
If we did it with a quoted out for each section. Does that make sense?
It
Does
does.
that make sense when I lay it out? I don't know how you put that.
And it does. And I don't think we're going to go $1 million in debt this year. I don't.
I don't either, but still the numbers reflect, or the paper were reflecting that.
Whatever you want to do, guys.
Yeah, I mean, quite literally, if we're just gonna do 10% above what we had last year, we've already got those numbers. They're available for us to view right there, other than it just not being an actual change. We are over budget right now, a lot.
Yeah, right now we're way over budget.
So what are you saying? Are you comfortable with?
I mean, we just need to prioritize. I actually attended a class in May of 2022, and it had all of the processes and whatever else like laid out moving forward. And I'm like, oh, cool, we'll do this moving forward. And I just found it the other day for 2 years later.
Is that the one with the grand tree?
I think so. Yeah. Yeah. It just gives like an important dates calculator and tells how you're basically supposed to proceed after this. We have things that we need to be doing, housekeeping items that we need to be doing. So we're not having this discussion right now. We're more in the know ahead of time.
So what's it saying there? Aim high?
What's that?
Does it say aim high in there?
Yeah, I honestly didn't read those portions of it. I just like skimmed over it quickly.
So delaying approving the budget, you said, makes it where you can't do grants, but you delayed it last year and you got the CDBG.
That was an H19 one. It depends on the criteria. if we're gonna, if you're looking at, Montana Coal Endowment Program and SRLF and the big water projects, I guess that's a gamble. That's not one, like, if it is in water and sewer and we know it's in water and sewer, and we say,
Well, 800 and some thousand of it is
Yeah.
in water and sewer, which is, that's where it's at.
water, we expect to use a lot in the next year. Those numbers, like, that is pretty much planned. That's the hard hit year.
For water, so we technically can't pull it out of water?
I mean, we can, but those numbers we were,
But if we do hit those numbers, then we're in debt.
Right. Right.
We're getting the $1.5 million.
No, 370 for ARPA. I think I would personally rather have
It's a mosquito in
a
here.
more accurate, closer to accurate, and do a budget amendment when needed.
I like that as well.
I hear what the mayor's saying. I don't want to screw up our
The entire
project
budget,
going forward in any, or threaten to screw up that in
Yeah, I
any
know.
way.
Right,
That's a pretty big deal for us.
right.
So whatever you guys want. I'm good
Right,
with it.
back to grants, I mean, it's probably like a credit score rating if you don't, I mean, even if you're divorced, that lowers your credit rating. A lot of people don't know that, that lowers your credibility ultimately. So there's a lot of different, I guess, just speaking of grants.
Right. Well, also note for future years that we don't wait till the last freaking minute to look at the budget too.
They also did that last year too.
Yeah.
What do you want to do, guys? You want to ride it or you want
I already said my P's and Q's.
Yeah,
Corey?
I would like to hear some input from Public Works or from, if that was kind of the turnover. I even feel when Eric early on was just like, this is what Kelly says I have to do, this is what I'm gonna do. Pad these by 50%. So, I would love like I guess we'll call it an official answer on that. But, that doesn't mean we can't.
I don't
move forward
know.
with this and get an official answer later.
Minor panic moments.
I think Eric's gonna have a major panic moment tomorrow.
No, I mean, just as a random example.
You should be here tomorrow then before we vote. Talk to him about it.
I would
Look
hope.
at page 25 of 30, professional services,
Expenditures,
Hold
revenue.
on.
on expenditures. I mean, this is just one of those prime examples of like
Page what?
what I'm looking at when I say panic moment.
25?
Page 25, 430550, number 350.
Last
Look
year we
at
were-
the fluctuation in that baby.
Yeah, 94,000.
You spent 2,583 the year before. The next year it's at 94,888. Then we're settling on 5,000. I don't know how you would. I mean, we dropped that number. We didn't go 10% over actual
Well,
from.
what was last year? It doesn't have a last year, does it?
And then there's 0 for that.
Mhm.
It's like all over the place. It's all over the place in a couple of them. So a lot of them are really close. Fuel's really close.
But isn't that what a budget amendment would be for? right?
Transmission and
Theoretically.
distribution.
Yes.
Yes.
I mean, my suggestion would be is to go ahead and adopt. And then have these, that gives them time to go back and revisit this. And make sure they've got, real good solid numbers. And then do your budget amendment.
I don't love that answer because every fucking year when it comes to budget, hurry, approve it, hurry, approve it, and then here we sit at the 9th hour. It's not fair for us, and I don't think we should even be put in that position.
I just don't like the optics of it. I mean, I can write the Madisonian headline, town approves budget $1 million
Deficit, yeah.
over, yeah, with $1 million deficit. And then you say, well, yeah, it's $1 million, but it's not really $1 million. It's kind of, the handshake and.
Yeah, and explain that to every person that's coming to you saying, are you crazy? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That or take it down and then if something happens, you do a budget resolution
Yeah.
to add money.
I like that. I think it's safer. I think it's the logical way to do it.
So I'll have to pull out the ones that were pre-approved last year. It's like Karen's 18,000 was technically approved last year, then it rolled into this one. And I guess we change our mind from year to year because we also had a $120,000 in generators, but okay.
I mean, I'm going to be honest, I probably wasn't looking at the overall,
Looking at what?
I don't know, the deficit as closely last year because of.
It was your first year.
Yeah, second, but yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Get somebody in with experience that is used to looking at budgets and brings up good points and.
Did you do there was the training.
Yeah.
John Lee sent me an email back, said he liked that department's training. That was the only one any feedback that I had.
Yeah, I'm not going to blame anyone but myself for not trying to facilitate this. I mean, seriously, I was like, I am totally going to bring this up and go ask questions. And
What consists of the professional services you were talking about, Nikki?
That's what I'd have to pull.
The what?
That's what I would have to pull immediately is to figure out what was that an emergency.
All of the 40-50 that we paid for. Right?
Was that an emergency thing? Other purchase services?
Is what, yeah.
And transmission, that probably is it.
Did you get it?
Yep.
Because it would have to be in that. Which in pipe and, well, maybe that would be in materials.
Well, sorry, just to bring that back up for the $94,000. I mean, that was just in one department, but it would have to get bidded out anyway, so we could do a budget amendment at the same time, right?
So
It has to get bidded on.
yes, we went through afterwards, and I have now an emergency action folder. Because there's a portion in Montana code that allows, if you have an incident with the water system where you can hold an emergency meeting, and then you basically put certain stipulations on the budget where you can spend things differently because you're hemorrhaging water and your people don't have it.
Emergency meeting with us?
No, there's an emergency in town.
As
the
defined.
main water line breaks
Right.
in half or something like that.
Exactly.
Right.
And it wasn't done the last time there was an emergency like that one. So now there's an emergency folder so that whoever's here can go, hey, there's this little Montana code and this is the procedures that you have. We have actual like action plans as far as action items for incidents through LEPC, but we don't have financing portion action plans. Does that make sense? Like in the whole, you guys didn't attend it. So incident command, you have like whoever's in charge, and then you have a finance officer and operations. We have operations plans. We don't have finance plans.
What would the savings be if there was the second officer? Don't shoot backwards, I'm just asking.
I think we have to do the second officer because it was voted on, right? It was
Yeah, that's the answer I got yesterday.
That's
But
very
if you
specific.
take it-
It was voted on to fund.
To fund,
not
but if you
voted
take
on
it
to
out of the
have.
budget, then you would still do a budget amendment. We would just maybe know when there was an officer hired in this case too, so. But it doesn't have to, pretty sure it doesn't have to be in the budget. As long as the money is reserved and dog-eared for it, we can cut the budget and do a budget amendment, just as we would with any of these other departments, right? Theoretically.
I mean, we're going to 8 months or 9 months with just one officer. Busiest time of the year.
And I'd have to say
Kind
that
of
part
no
of that
officer.
probably, there's multiple reasons for that. And if you're hearing a town doesn't want to commit any money to its police department and its training, I don't think I would want to be part of that program either. I would skip on to the other list of towns, like Bozeman that just hired 14.
But you're not saying that because you can do an amendment to
Right.
have the second officer. You're not.
They budgeted for 14
You're not-
extra officers.
Because they have the
You're not
money. Do we have the
advertising
money?
it,
We
you're
are
not-
in a deficit even,
And that's your pick.
I mean, I think if we did water and sewer, or, I don't know. If we amended the water and sewer today, that would
I'll
get us
amend the
closer
water
to
and
the point.
sewer.
There's like maybe a half dozen, I guess, accounts in water and sewer that are like huge
Differences, yeah.
Huge increases.
I'll amend water and sewer.
40.
So amend water and sewer and take out, do you want to leave the paving project in or take that out as well?
Take it out.
Okay.
There's 5 of them.
Any other takeouts?
we get a bug zapper in here.
It's not in the budget.
Yeah.
And neither is the air conditioning from the whatever
It was gonna be, but
meeting.
now,
It could be part of that grant that we
Yeah.
put stickers up on the wall.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
Revised water and sewer, we'll see it.
Okay.
Same bat time tomorrow?
Mm-hmm. Correct?
Do we leave the tables again or no?
Yeah,
We'll,
yeah,
yeah,
well,
we'll just put them,
readjust those.
we'll just move them around in the morning.
they're okay to just set
Yeah,
them.
just leave them.
Yeah, you can leave your stuff here.
Are you going
What's
to-
that? Yeah, I
No,
found it.
just-
This
I-
work session adjourned.
I needed to
Work
refresh
session adjourned.
because it wasn't showing
Yes.
Yes,
the next meetings on the,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I'm like,
I
don't see it.
I just saw it.
Yeah,
I was looking at it, I'm going, what? We have another one tomorrow?
Yeah, fun, huh?
And I got two next, and then planning on Tuesday and commission on Thursday.
And I have library this Friday.
if I'm wrong on this, guys, you let me know. I'm not married to it. I
You're
just,
still gonna be over a $300,000 deficit.
That's probably a lot more, it's easier, 300 is easier to sell. But you're, I agree with you. If we just approve it, you know, like you said, the optics. Town's gonna say, hey, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Town's approving, you know, a budget with $1 million worth of expenditures over revenue. Like, what the? That's what I would say if I was.
Yeah.
The new journalist is an aggressive one.
Yeah.
March Thursday, right?
I think we should make it Friday.
What's that?
I think we should make it Friday.
We could.
And the budget has to be approved tomorrow, not the end of the week.
It is the deadline tomorrow.
Okay.
I mean, and, yeah, I mean, there is some importance to that.
No, I understand. I just wanted to make sure that, you know, what, 30 days from whatever.
Yeah, August 5th, I got, August 5th, they said, there's your taxable values.
Okay. I mean, it is what it is, yeah.
Yeah. 30 days after the taxable, the town, or it says due to LGS, which is legislative, right? Is that what it stands for? Due to LGS, 60 days after receipt of certified taxable valuation on October 1st.
Ah,
First,
no, I'm leaving that.
that's due to, I think that's LGS.
Legislature.
Yeah, 6 days after notice is first Thursday in September after the first Tuesday. And Tuesday is the second. So, yeah. This kind of laid it all out. This is a pretty sweet project.
Yeah, that looks like a
And
good
I'm
shape.
on the floor of my house. Which is just like, that's awesome. That's.
Thank you.
Right.
Okay, Thea, hang on. We get out of here.